Welcome to the Elk Talk Podcast with Randy Newberg and Corey Jacobson. Presented by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
The goal is, what little you and I know about elk hunting, we share with people.
I've got an elk bugle, it's like 120 yards away. What do I do? First off, the thought would never cross my mind when an elk's bugle 120 yards away to call anybody on a cell phone.
All elk?
All the time? Only elk?
Only elk.
Well, it's us having conversations, so we usually go down some rabbit holes, but
If you hunt with Corey Jacobson, you will find the landscape is full of rabbit holes. We're just going to make this up as we go.
and you look at it like, oh, that's a target-rich environment. But if you're trying to single one out, a solo target there is much easier to go into than a big group.
We record everything, so there's no BSing, no lying, no faking it with us.
Did we hit the record
I thought
button?
I forgot to hit the record button. If you want to know something about elk hunting, this probably isn't the podcast to listen to. Should we give them a list of all the other podcasts where they might learn something? The Elk Talk Podcast is brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, ensuring the future of elk, other wildlife, their habitat, and our hunting heritage. To become a member, go to rmef.org.
And the podcast is also brought to you by OnX Maps. And with OnX Maps, you can know where you stand with the most accurate hunting GPS tech on the market with land ownership maps that work offline. Go to onxmaps.com and use promo code ELKTALK, and you're going to save 20% when you sign up for an app membership at onxmaps.com.
The podcast is also brought to you by Gerber. Go to gerbergear.com and learn about the knives, the Vital, the Big Game Vital, the Gator Premium, all the things that we use when we're out in the woods, and not just knives, but also some really cool multi-tools that they have.
We're also proud to partner with Sitka Gear, and if you go to sitkagear.com, you'll see their full line of clothing, and their tagline is turning clothing into gear, and they are doing that through advanced technology that allows you to stay in the field longer, hunt harder, and stay safer.
The Elk Talk Podcast is also brought to you by GoHunt.com. Go to GoHunt.com and sign up for the Insider. The Insider is changing how hunts and hunting information are found. No doubt about that. Use promo code ELKTALK, and when you sign up for the Insider, you're going to get $50 of store credit, mad money, in their gear shop.
And we are also brought to you by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. And Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls is the original designer and inventor of the pallet plate diaphragm that's completely changed the way elk calls are made and used. And to find out more and to order your elk calls, go to RockyMountainHuntingCalls.com or BuglingBull.com and use promo code ELKTALK, and you're going to save 15% on all of your elk calls and elk call accessories.
And with that, Corey, we are ready to get into it. Hey, folks, we told you it was going to be noisy, but I don't know that. Did we know it was going to be this noisy?
It's busy. We're at Western Conservation Hunting Expo in Salt Lake, and today is Saturday, which is the day of chaos here. And we're we've got a little corner of a booth here with 4 chairs in it, but the background noise is, we're picking it up, so we apologize for that you have to hear that in the background. But being at a cool show like this allows us to meet up with some really cool people that
really good guests.
Yeah.
And we hijacked the corner of the Go Hunt booth here. I don't know what they're going to charge us for rent.
we should charge them.
We should.
Yeah. I thought we were going to have a leather couch. That was my request.
I know.
And we're sitting here on metal chairs.
Metal chairs. My butt hurts. But when you sit around as much as I do, you get a good callus on your butt anyhow. So there goes the llama man himself, Bo Beatty, walking right past here. He's going to come back. We should throw Bo on this podcast. You guys, let me hijack. We got our guests here that are horse guys.
They are. So I've known Jeff and Mark Skousen, who are twin brothers, for several years, and they're just hardcore DIY, get after it elk hunters. And I thought the world needs to know Mark and Jeff. So Our guests on this podcast are Mark and Jeff Skousen, so welcome, guys.
Great to be here. Yeah.
Awesome. And you guys are from Utah?
Born and raised in Utah, lived down in Utah County, and then until we graduated from college here and BYU grads, and then we kind of spread out. Jeff went to Washington, I went to California for 5 or 6 years, then we migrated back, and have lived here ever since and raised our families here, so.
Well, good job of migrating back from California.
Yeah.
Nothing against the California folks. It's just we've run into a bunch of them here, and you always hear the stories of how hard it is to hunt in California. Yeah. It makes me realize how lucky I am.
Yeah, you either hear the stories of people who live here now and they're so grateful to be out of California, or the ones who are still there and saying, I wish I didn't have to live there.
the one silver lining of living in California, other than there's diversity and lots of people, which is not the silver lining, but I managed to find a way to hunt pigs down there.
Oh, yeah?
So one of my first bow kills was 20 plus years ago, was a 250-pound Russian boar out in kind of the inland of California. So there is actually hunting you can do down there, but it was pigs back then. So.
Okay. But not a lot of elk hunting.
Yeah, they have a little bit, but it's really limited. Tule elk down there on some preserves, and it's kind of just private stuff.
Yeah, so I've been researching Tule elk. Yeah. I would love to hunt Tule elk. There is one non-resident tag in the whole state of California for a Tule elk.
Yeah.
And other than that, you have to buy a landowner tag. That's your only option to hunt Tule elk.
So if your dream, which you always talk about these Tule elk when we're not on camera or on headsets, is Tule elk.
My only option is to buy a landowner tag.
Yeah.
Or not go.
And most likely hunt on private land.
Yeah.
There are a few. There's a military preserve you can hunt on. There are a few options, which I'm still looking, because my last thing I want to do is just go buy a tag and go hunt on private land.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a public land snob or anything, but that's just not my style of elk hunting. Right. But I do want to experience Tule elk. I just want to have that experience to say, I've hunted multiple states, I've hunted all the species, and just be able to intelligently talk from experience on it. And I'm in that quandary right now of trying to figure out how to balance that and how to make that happen. Because I can't pay. A trophy like a true bull elk Tule hunt is $20,000 to $30,000. That'll never happen.
Rounding error in your checkbook.
Rounding down and taking off 4 of the zeros.
Don't let Corey Jacobson fool you, man. That guy is tighter than tight. But I did see you pay $5 for a water this morning.
$3.75, and I gave one to you. So that's generosity. That's not tightness.
You get any kinder, you'll die of enlargement of the heart or something. So now you guys know what it's like when you guys are already like,
hey, we're fans. We've listened to your podcast. Lots of squirrels.
Yeah. If there's a squirrel or a rabbit hole, we'll investigate.
I was going to say we recorded the podcast on New Mexico and the applications there, so it's probably time that we apologize again for that, because that was late night in a hotel and we talk about squirrel holes.
Yeah, so Corey was in a downer about New Mexico because he's been on one New Mexico hunt, and that's his sample size, and he killed the bull, but they weren't bugling, so it was like, well,
why ever go to New Mexico again?
Right.
And I appreciate your guys' podcast on Utah, because you were a downer on that too. So
can you guys lift us up?
No, keep it down. We'll just keep it down.
Really? There's no hunting in Utah.
You know how much hate mail I got because of that?
Yeah.
Man, Utah's not all that bad. I'm like, no, it's not. I drew. You guys gave me a tag. It was a lot of fun, but
they're like you guys said, that it's just far and few between. I mean, you gotta. Unless you just kind of know some of the little secret spots on the general hunt, every probably 10 years, you could potentially draw an archery tag in Utah, which doesn't give you a ton of opportunities in your lifetime.
Right.
So.
And my response to those people has been, it was just a comment about how limited the opportunities are for limited entry. And as a general tag, I think Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, most people would say, it's going to maybe be a little less crowded, maybe a higher population of elk. And so the general over-the-counter experience in those states most people would say is better than what it is in Utah.
Yeah. No question.
And these guys you guys have hunted Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming. I don't know. You've been to Montana. You have. So you've hunted all those states, and you live and hunt in Utah. So, I mean, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Over-the-counter general opportunities.
We've had success over the counter. There's a few places that we've scouted out because we wanted to go hunt a branch antlered bull, but that's what you get, a branch antlered bull. I remember when you and Mark were hunting down in southern Colorado, and I shot that little bull and sent you a picture. I mean, that's the type of bulls that you hunt, and guys run into nice bulls in the general hunt. I'm sitting at 21 points in Utah right now for elk.
No way.
As a resident.
As a resident?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Been holding out for one specific unit, but the thing that I haven't liked is the archery season ends the second week of September.
Right.
And it's 100 degrees still.
Yeah.
And so I've been hoping that Utah would wise up and follow every other state and not put the rifle hunt right in the middle of the rut. We'll probably get shot for that one too, but still, it is, I don't know that there's much sport in it, really.
Well, I guess you're just going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Because with the rifle hunt in Utah, you have archery that goes till the 12th to the 15th of September. The rifle hunt starts the very next day.
7 days. So Saturday, that third Saturday, usually in September, it runs seven days, and then you jump right into muzzleloader,
which is still
rifle hunting.
Peak rut.
Today, and deep rut.
Yeah.
And then, it just depends on how the calendars line up. 2 years ago, they actually ran it to the 17th just because the third Saturday in August when it started was really late. And so it ran deep into September. So you wait another 7 years and you're going to get that late hunt again.
Except for you have to count for the leap year.
Yeah, and then the leap year.
Yeah, it throws everything out of whack.
I wonder if anyone listening really thinks about 21 years in your home state.
Yeah.
So to get 21 points, you've flunked the draw 21 times.
Yeah, I've been putting in.
Wow.
So anyway, but the good news is we've been able to go to a bunch of other states and hunt, so it hasn't been that big a deal. I figure that's a once in a lifetime, and when all the stars align and I can take the whole month off, then I'll go do that one.
Yep. No, that's a great point. We alluded to it a little bit on a previous podcast, but I went to Arizona several years ago and did a seminar. And everybody came up, there were very few people there, and the ones that came up were like, hey, thanks for doing this. Hopefully when I draw my tag, I'll get excited about it, and hopefully we'll be here that year and do a seminar again. And it just dawned on me that these people wait 12 to 15 years to hunt elk for the first and only time.
Yeah, crazy.
And they draw this incredibly quality tag, and they go hunting with no experience.
They don't know what to do.
When they can drive across the border to Colorado or to Montana or Idaho or whatever state it is and just hunt elk for a couple of years, there's just so much opportunity that, Utah general, if you live in Utah, don't wait to draw the limited tag in 20 years. Go and hunt elk and just be out there at least and get that experience.
I think we were talking about a little bit this yesterday, Corey, but one of the things Utah has given us is there's lots of opportunity to go hunt spikes and in really premium units, so it's not too hard to find elk and find young bulls, spike bulls, and that's where we really cut our teeth. I mean, we've probably had 10 years of killing spikes and cows with archery equipment, and it really helps kind of refine the skills when you get in the heat of the moment on a big bull. At least you've been there before, and you're still shooting an elk, right?
Yep.
So you still, some of the same tactics apply, and so it's been really good for us. And I think you guys have mentioned this on a podcast that the guys just need to get out there and hunt elk, and it's not always how big the elk is. You just got to get out there and hunt elk, get the experience, learn how to handle adrenaline and kind of the heat of the moment situations, and then you can be successful on, kind of bigger and better things eventually. But I mean, for us, the main thing is we love elk. For 22 years, ever since I've been married, we've had a freezer full of elk, and it's just been awesome because that's what we live off as a family, and just love it. So for me, if I have a full freezer, I care less if it's a spike or a big stinky 6-point.
We all want to shoot a big bull,
yeah, exactly.
but we want a full freezer.
Yeah,
so that's,
right.
Yeah.
So there's good opportunity in Utah for that. And last year, I was fortunate because I had just got off my 5-year waiting period because I drew a muzzleloader tag back in 2011. And 5-year waiting period, and I was only in the draw 2 years, and someone turned in their tag, and I got one of those lucky calls from the division and said, hey, we got a tag here, you're next on the list, do you want it? And I had 2 points. Yeah. And so I said, sure. might as well go actually hunt elk with my bow in Utah. And it was a great hunt. It was warm. Like Jeff said, it was pretty warm, but we got into activity and ended up killing a really nice bull. So,
Yeah.
So with that, do you have to wait another 5 years
yeah,
now?
and then
So
you're
you
5 years again. Yep.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah, you got to wait 5 years whether you're successful or not.
Yeah.
yeah,
Just getting the
correct.
tag.
Just drawing the tag.
Yeah, because I got one of those calls. I thought it was a crank call.
Yeah.
I only had 5 points. I won't go into why I have a landline anymore, but I do.
You probably have a fax machine too, Randy.
I do. I have my CPA firm. Yeah, there's a lot. All right, gosh, I'm really dating myself here, but I got that call too, and I'm like, wow, 5 points. The odds of me ever getting to go are 0. Yeah, I'm in, and I drew they gave me the South Cache archery tag, and so when you're talking, Jeff, about the early August part of it, I think the season ended September 12th or 14th, the year I had the tag, and I planned that last week, and it was getting better and better, and we were hearing bulls, and then my wife had to have an emergency surgery, so I lost the last 3 days of
bummer.
the season. But I tell her, honey, thanks for giving me an excuse about why I didn't film my Utah archery tag. But it is weird. It's really interesting how, in most states it's flip-flopped, where the rifle hunts are not in the rut and the archery is, but so.
They've changed that a little bit. They actually added, so you've got still the rut rifle, but then they added an early October and I think a later October now. So you actually have several opportunities, at least on the rifle front, to go hunt elk in Utah. I think they just were spreading out the level a little bit so it wasn't so
They
concentrated.
wanted to take the pressure off of September a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, they can provide more opportunity, I would think, because the exploitation
rates
of the resource would probably be a little less in October or November than it is.
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, you think about how many encounters we've had in archery season. Boy, you give me a 300 Win mag in my hand, and that bull wasn't going to get away.
Especially in a controlled unit that's managed for quality, and it's crazy.
So, of all the traveling states you guys go to, you got a favorite?
It had been Colorado because when we were younger, about 12 years old, our family bought a little ranch, 80 acres over in Colorado.
Okay.
About 2 hours, from us here, 3 hours. Well, it was a total 5, but just 2 hours into Colorado. So northwest part of Colorado. And so we spent from age 12 to 20 with that. And
Cool.
so we got into hunting over there, and actually we started experimenting at a young age, videoing some. So we got hooked up with Ranching for Wildlife over there, and so we would take our little cameras at age 14, 15, and we would film these guys as they would hunt, and these guys would come in, and that's where we fell in love with hunting and with elk hunting. And so every year we would take our horses into the backcountry with our dog, and we'd go fish all the lakes, and just got really loving Colorado. And we continued that even after we sold the place. My parents got old and didn't want to take care of that anymore, so we sold that. And we continued to go back over there every year just because we knew it, or like every 3 years maybe, every 3 years.
Cool.
This year was our first entree into Idaho, and we both did really well. Killed bulls in Idaho this year, and so I don't know.
You got lucky. There's not
Yeah,
really
there's no elk.
there's no elk in Idaho.
There is no elk in Idaho, but there's some tripped onto our arrows there, and so we did okay. But so between Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, I mean those would be probably our top 3. To say which one's better, I don't know. I mean, right now we can only hunt Wyoming probably every 2 or 3 years, just on the general tag.
Yeah.
Idaho we can go every year.
Yeah.
So I would say that may be our.
And Colorado's we just need a point usually to get. There's some great OTC units there too, but we need a point to get to the places that we know, and and it'll be interesting. We'll run into people there. They'll go a week. We'll talk to them. We haven't seen an elk, and we're like, yeah, we haven't either. We got 2 hanging in the tree here, but.
So what do you guys do for real work?
Day job stuff. I'll start, and people listening to this podcast, Jeff and I sound very similar, so you may not be able to distinguish between who's talking.
Mark or
Jeff.
too.
Yeah, we look a little similar. We sound similar. This is Mark. I do real estate development for education facilities, actually. So I've been doing that for the last 11 years, and just basically we go develop properties and finance school facilities all over the country.
Okay.
So that's what I do for my day job.
Huh.
For the last 10 years, I've been at a software technology company called Domo. And
Domo, what's that?
It's Domo is a software platform that enables you to anybody running a business to connect all their data and see how the business is doing from a single dashboard. Is the simplest way to tell about it. So it's complicated. Business intelligence, we're in that space.
It was funny though, early 2000, like 2003, Jeff and I and one of our older brothers actually, this is what kind of got us coming back to Utah. We started a mortgage company together.
Oh, wow.
So we did that for 5 or 6 years and kind of timed it right and got out when the mortgage industry kind of imploded on itself. And so we did that, and it was really fun to work together for 5 or 6 years, and then we kind of went and did our own thing again. But
so do those jobs let you hunt a lot? Or do you just
we're getting to the point where, and they know when September comes around, they may not see me as much or at all. And so
there's a lot of flexibility in mine anyway to go do that. So it's really nice that way.
Or else I would choose a different profession.
I should have had you guys on my podcast. I did a podcast about marital advice. I hit my 30th wedding anniversary. And so the podcast we released that day was subtitled How to Hunt 6 Months a Year and Make Your 30th Wedding Anniversary.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys are well on that way too.
Yeah.
It's been just like you probably. It's been a learning curve how to navigate that fine balance between honey, I'm gone for this month, and
how can you take a month off for hunting and you can't take 2 days for family vacation?
Dang it! I hope my wife doesn't listen to this one too.
You know how to answer that question.
Well, honey, I'm providing meat for the family. I mean, that's got to be the right up
work.
there.
Elk hunting is work.
Right. You guys wouldn't have food if we didn't go do this. So.
Yeah, boy, I've tried that before. that rationale was really a bad one a long time ago.
As a CPA, she's like, yeah, you can't make that justification.
Right.
And my justification is, hey, you deserve that expensive meat.
That's right. It's like the
when all is said and done, exactly.
I spend this much money on this and gas.
I need a new ATV, a new bow.
I'm paying like $70 a pound for this elk meat. I could go and buy you some beef for $8 a pound, but I expect more for my family.
Yeah, I know that it's not working when my wife always says, would you ask or try to convince one of your clients of that? Don't insult me by trying to convince me of it. It's like, oh, all right, I'll go shovel some snow, honey. You're right.
Where's the shovel again? Do you have a shovel?
Yeah. But you guys are really into the fitness side of elk hunting. So we're like on opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, people walking by here are looking at me and they're looking at you guys saying, who's Newberg talking to there who be in that good a shape?
Those guys aren't eating Dairy Queen.
Yeah. So
you look fantastic,
Andy. I drive a desk for a living, is what I tell people about 6 months out of the year. And so the whole Dairy Queen stunt got started thanks to two people, Cameron Haynes and Brian Call.
Yeah.
They were asking me, well, you do pretty good killing elk. What's your workout regimen? I'm like, well, I got tax season, and so I don't get a lot of exercise. And then in the summertime, I go and hike, and then I go to Dairy Queen, and then I go hunting starting in the fall. I work out by hunting, and these were two different conversations, and both of them had kind of the same response of, What's the Dairy Queen thing? I'm like, well, I grew up with it. It's a problem. And so it's my one indulgence in life. I don't drink, don't smoke, don't gamble, don't stay out late. So, we all got to have one
Next
vice.
Best thing, go to Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think it was Brian Call had me on a podcast, and he's given me grief about it. And I'm like, so Brian, how many elk did you kill last year? None. Okay, I killed 2. Eat more Dairy Queen.
That's right.
And it just grew from there. So
what's funny is I know Brian. He stayed at my house a few times. He will indulge in a bowl of ice cream at a drop of a hat.
I know.
You don't have to talk him into it.
Yeah, we hunted with him in Arizona last month. He's the only guy who came to camp with ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm like, Brian, what's this all about, man?
I had to make it a New Year's resolution.
Not
to.
Really? Oh, so you guys aren't like averse to ice cream?
Yeah, we're not that strict.
Oh,
But it's
So
funny.
what is, I mean, just because the audience isn't here looking at you saying, wow, I mean, you're 45.
5.
You look like you're 22. You look like you could go and play college football, if not in the NFL. And that doesn't come just by genetics. So what's your
I think one of the things is, and we've talked a lot about this on Elk 101 and tried to educate people, because there's always this argument like, do you have to be in like top physical condition to go hunt elk and or kill elk? And obviously the answer is no. I mean,
notice how he looks at me when he says obviously the answer is no. He looks at Randy.
You can kill elk.
Randy knows where the elk are, though, and that's part of the key to this.
I think Corey, one of the things that was just kind of in our blood from a very early age is we came from a household of 5 boys. So we had 3 older brothers, a very athletic household, and Jeff and I played football was kind of our first passion, and then we actually made the freshman basketball team. And we were like 6 and 7 guys. Obviously can only play 5, and that ticked us off. So the wrestling coach happened to swing by at the practice one day and says, "Hey, why don't you guys come and wrestle?" And we were kind of like, that actually is a good idea, because no one can tell you you're not tougher than the next guy or better than the next guy, because you can just go prove it on the mat, right? So that actually was our entree. My dad had got us into some pee-wee wrestling when we were just little kids, but like when we were 9th graders, we decided to kind of jump into wrestling, and I think that kind of set the stage in our life. We really did it just to stay in shape for football, but we ended up being good at wrestling, but you know, from a diet standpoint to just killer workouts to just kind of, I think, the most demanding sport on your body. If you've never wrestled before, I mean, it's that.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the stage. And I know a lot of guys that wrestled with me that I look at now and I'm like, you would never think that they had done a stitch of exercise since. So we
made up on all the food they missed.
So we've obviously had to kind of stick with it, but I think that set the kind of foundation of just staying in shape and being healthy. And we're always really competitive anyway as twins. So there was always this motivation, and am I going to be stronger than Jeff? Or, you know, it seemed like that was in the back of our minds. But then when we kind of implemented into hunting, it was such a natural transition to say, we just want to be in the best shape we can. We train to hunt elk now. That's really what our platform is. And so we used to lift heavy and do things like that. It's kind of evolved over time as we've gotten older, and it's just more about full body workouts and just trying to be in the best physical shape we can, because our style of hunting is like Jeff said earlier, backcountry hunting, and we utilize our horses, but we get our horses into the backcountry, but then we go hunt from there. It just gives us an advantage to go a little deeper than other people, and then we go out and hunt from there, but you know, and we're pretty fresh and we can even get deeper into the woods. So I think that's really our motivation today and why we do it, and it's just kind of stuck with us. So
is there a specific diet? I mean, do you guys eat a certain way?
You know, I don't really follow a specific plan. I mean, obviously there's the easy ones, right? Yeah. Cut out the sweets, the sugars, the simple carbs, you know, all of that stuff. And we've done quite a bit of research on this. There's people that go specifically on different, you know, paleo diets or whatever. We eat a lot of elk in a lot of different varieties. And we watch what we eat, and we try and, you know, the thing we have studied is, and with the technology that you have, you can figure out how many calories you're burning in a day. Yeah. And at one point, we were training for a couple Spartan races last year. So we are always trying to figure out something to train for, just to keep us motivated. It might be a mountain bike race or a Spartan race or something. But, you know, there's calories in, calories out. So see what your metabolic rate is, you know, and then try and manage that. You got to fuel your body with the right fuels so you can perform, but you don't want a bunch of excess, you know, calories that you're not burning every day. So that's kind of the thing we try and live by.
Yeah, and I think people that go to the extreme, like fad diets, and go to the extreme one way or to the other, they're just kind of setting themselves up for failure. So firm believer in kind of balance in your life, and you got to have indulgences. You got to go to your Dairy Queens every once in a while. But
define every once in a while.
Not on the way to work every day, Randy, but
Well, you've taken it too far when they follow you on Instagram.
that's right.
That's been
Have they named a cone after you yet?
No, I'm going to try convince them of that. But when I found
Flavor of the week.
You know how on Instagram you
Randy's.
get a notification someone's following you? I'm like, I see this one Dairy Queen official is following you. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And sure enough, they were. And then they got
Poster child for them.
Yeah.
Well, and then to make it even better, they were only following like 20 people.
Yeah, at
on
that
Instagram.
time. And now they're up to like 160 people they follow, but I don't know who all these other people are. They're like, so I asked my crew is young, they're all in their 20s. I'm like, you know who this is? Oh yeah, the person is like a pop singer. Oh, okay, I don't know. So yeah, it's.
Dairy
I
Queen
think the other
status.
thing I know. The other thing that I get asked a question quite a bit, like, what do you do? What's your workout regime? And it's evolved over time, like I said. But one of the things we've done for the last couple of years is, you guys heard of Mountain Tough Fitness Labs out of Montana?
Yep.
So we've gotten to know Dustin and have implemented that actually the last couple of years pretty heavily. This last year, where they kind of did the pre-hunt workout, and then we're doing the post-hunt season workout right now. And I think that's a really good platform. And one of the things I like about it's all laid out for you, almost like a personal trainer. They've got video instruction if you don't know how to do an exercise. And
Is it home-based, so you can do it with...
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things in there, like they use a row machine, for example, which is a pretty integral part of their workout. So if you don't have a row machine at home, it helps to go to a rec center. But you don't need to go spend $20 at a high-end gym to go do this. I mean, if you've got some dumbbell weights, and it's nice to have kind of a squat rack and some things like that. But for the most part, it's a really good mix between kind of the cardio aspects that you need, building the legs, everything's kind of foundational, core, all the things you need as an elk hunter, And so they've given a lot of thought to that. And I've been pretty impressed, really impressed actually with the quality of that workout as it translates into hunting. So we'll get on this platform, and then we'll go on a mountain bike ride, and it just seems so much easier.
What
just
happened?
Of the,
This is so easy.
Yeah, it builds a really good base that way. So it's been good.
Sounds like
Randy's not taking notes right
No,
now.
I'm just thinking
Mental
this through.
notes.
So I'm just going to ask the practical question. And as you guys have been talking, I've been looking at the audience walking by here. And they're closer to my profile than they are your profile. So you work 50 hours a week. You got kids. You're helping out at school or church or Scouts or Little League or whatever.
All the above.
All the above. How do you mentally block out that? Okay, I got to take care of my body for a half hour, 50 minutes, or an hour and a half today.
Yeah.
That to me, most people aren't afraid of the work it takes to stay in shape. They never move that high enough up their priority list of the competing priorities for their time. Is there a trick or a way that works for that?
I think one of the things that you have to put a schedule together, but you have to put a schedule that works. So if you say, hey, I'm gonna work out at the end of the day, like for me that just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I've got too many things. I feel tired. I'm sluggish. So we get up at 10 to 5, and we're meeting up. And the nice thing too is we have each other, which we've talked about before too. If you can find somebody else to hold you accountable,
that's the same level as you, which is really kind of key too.
Yeah, it makes it really, like, if Mark's going to the gym, I got to be there, or vice versa. So it motivates us. So we'll usually text each other the night before, see you in the morning. When you set that mentally in your mind, you're just going. If you're saying, hey, I might wake up in the morning, I might not, it's not going to happen. Yep. So we get up early and get it done. And some people say, well, I just can't do it in the morning. I'm just not a morning person.
Well, I'm one of those people. I can't work out in the morning, not because I'm not a morning person. Physically, I get nothing out of it. I don't know if it's just because I'm so tired in the morning, but I've done it in the morning. It's like I can't even lift the bar bench pressing right now. If I come back an hour later, I can double the weight. And so I physically don't get anything out of a workout if I do it early in the morning.
Yeah. So you got to do what works for you. But for us, that's just the consistency makes it really easy. We're going. Somebody
That's someone else, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, we had a phone ring.
Don't worry about it. $20 to the kitty.
But finding something that consistently works for you and just sticking with it, and then finding a partner to hold you accountable. I think those are the keys that have helped us be consistent at it. And honestly, at this point, it's become such a lifestyle thing. If I miss, I just feel yucky.
Yeah.
And if I don't eat the right way, I feel yucky. And so those are I think the keys for us, and I think for anybody who wants to find success.
Yeah, and if your motivation's not 100% elk hunting like it is for us, then you got to find your motivation.
Yeah.
You got to find whether it's an event you're training for. Like I said, even though we train to hunt, these Spartan events we did last year were really great. I mean, our level of intensity of how we trained, even with motivating each other, went to the next level up in terms of just how we train, just because we're so stinking competitive that, you know, we want to, whatever we enter, we want to compete and do well. And so
did one of you.
Yeah, Mark
on top.
Mark beat me. So through my work, they threw some cash at the winner of this thing.
Oh, wow.
And
Between just the two of you?
well, between the two of us, but also there was a guy at our work that thought he was the best, and so our CEO said, whoever can beat this guy, there's an amount of money, and so
it wasn't insignificant.
It wasn't insignificant.
Really?
So anyway, I told Josh, I said, hey, I got to bring Mark into the mix here, and he goes, yep, totally. He's like an employee, so that got us even more motivated. And these Spartan races, I don't know if you've heard of these things, but the super we did was up at Eden, up at the ski resort up there.
Morning Valley.
They take you, there's 29 obstacles that you have to navigate, plus it's about between 8 and 9 miles is the run portion of this. And so they start you out and they run you a mile and a half to the top of Nordic Valley, which is about 2,000 vertical feet, just to start the thing out. And then you've got sandbag carries, and you've got, you know, gravel bucket carries, and you've got
spear throws,
and you got all this stuff and a barbed wire crawl up the mountain.
Sorry, can you set him a stop one time for this little boy?
We've got a little visitor here, a young elk hunter has just joined us.
Get him a headset.
Sorry about the interruption, guys.
No,
Sorry.
it's fine. And so it's a very demanding event.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to be competitive
So
at it.
how many hours? I mean, this 8 to 9 mile race.
So
obviously,
I put my watch on. It took me just under 2 hours. Mark did it in a $1:45, but
The whole race?
$1:40.
Oh, I was thinking about the first track up to gain 2,000 vertical.
Yeah. So my average heart rate for that race was at 168.
Whoa.
And for a 45-year-old, that if you take 220 minus your age, which is your max heart rate, then I'm running way too hot for too long. And I started up that first hill, and I was at about 175, 180, and I blew up. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but I just blew up. Like, I gave up my will to win, to live at that point.
So tell me, 220 minus your age.
Yeah.
It should be your maximum heart rate.
Yep.
So you should never get your heart rate above 168.
Yeah, 168 would be.
That would be your max. Now, I get uncomfortable if I get out of the 150, 155 now. And so, you know, when they talk about training in target zones, you want to be anaerobic or versus aerobic. Mm-hmm. You know, if you can train in your aerobic, and you'll do some circuit training and stuff where you'll get anaerobic for a little bit, but you can't go anaerobic for too long, or your body's not going to function.
Blow up. So I mean, those types of events they simulate, I think, a little bit kind of what maybe a 6 or 7 day backcountry hunt does. Not the intensity.
2 hours.
In 2 hours, yeah. Seriously, because it's so condensed, but just the overall training you do. I mean, we go on these backcountry hunts, and especially getting back in the country on your horse, we feel fresh the whole time. It's really a lot of fun hunting when you can just see an elk, and doesn't matter where it is, you can go after it, and you don't really have limitations on the terrain.
We'll give you, for example, here. So in Idaho last year, we tried to find an area that we could find some wilderness, which would eliminate ATVs, which would eliminate anything motorized.
Yep.
And then get way back in where we could get away from folks. And it was really interesting. The trailhead we left from had 20 vehicles 20. and even a bunch of horse trailers. And we're like, crap, like we are going to run into all kinds of people. So we get about 4 miles in, and we had passed a lot of people with full backpacks, fully loaded up.
Yeah.
And they made it about 2.5, 3 miles in. There's just no way physically that they could get back in there. And we spent a day there, and we said, well, we got to go further because there's obviously too many people pushing the elk around. So we rode back in, and we ended up going about 10 miles back in, 10 to 11 miles back in on the horse. At that point, we didn't see. We saw two other hunters, by the way, that were absolutely horrible callers. they at 3 p.m, they were bugling nonstop, and I know there's the midday madness, but
that was insanity.
This was like, and we're like, it is 85 degrees. These bulls are bedded up. Anyway, we saw them, but what was crazy about it is they had been dropped off by an outfitter.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't know what they were doing. And we would see them at 8 or 9 in the morning when we were back from our morning hunt, and they were just headed out for their morning hunt. It was kind of funny, but they were in the general area where I ended up killing my bull, and could probably hear him because he bugled a couple times. We were hoping he didn't, but going back to physical fitness, the morning we found him, I actually had to climb about 1,000 vertical feet to get above him and make a play on him coming to his bedding area, which goes back to the physical. There's just what I did in that amount of time needed to happen to make that to be effective there.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have been in the shape I was in, it wouldn't have happened for sure.
It was not an insignificant hill. And I stayed on this side just glassing these bulls, and Jeff bombed off in the bottom, seriously straight down, straight back up, 1,000 vert. He got in perfect position right as they fed across. We didn't. Sorry, Corey. We didn't even call this bull. We just let him feed right across. And
it was a mule deer then.
Yeah, it was a mule deer. We did a spot and stock.
If you didn't call it, it's a mule deer.
Any elk that doesn't call or bugle, Corey just calls it.
He bugled the day before, so we felt justified in killing him.
Did you see him bugle?
I saw him bugle.
Okay.
Corey calls those greater mule deer.
Yeah.
No, and that goes back to the argument. Everybody always says, I know people who are out of shape who kill elk every year and have for 40 years. You don't have to be in shape to kill elk. And that's a true statement. Mm-hmm. But I know when I'm in shape, the better shape I'm in, the more enjoyable the hunt is, and the more successful I am, the more efficient I am. That's not comparing my success to anybody else's success. I'm a better hunter when I'm in better shape than I am when I'm not in good shape. And I want to be the best hunter I can be. I've got to put some effort into physical conditioning.
Well, and I think the revelation for a lot of people is like they don't really realize sometimes how big elk are and how much effort it takes to get, butcher an elk and get it out of the backcountry, especially that time of year sometimes when it's warm. Mm-hmm. So, and that's one of the reasons we take horses, because we can expedite that process a little faster. And I've done it a lot without, but it makes it that much better. But we look at a lot of these guys going from the trailhead, and kudos to them. I mean, they're getting out there and they're doing it. But the reality of them, killing a bull that far back in, getting it quartered out, packing it out, the easiest part's killing the elk sometimes. Yeah. It's the strain. My bull was a little bit later in the month, and I just went in with another buddy because Jeff was tied up at work, and we hiked in. We got to the trailhead at 10 p.m. We hiked into a spot 5 miles in on our backs with camp. We set up camp. I think we got there around 1:30 or 2. Up 5 o'clock the next morning, we killed that bull by 8:30. And then we packed it a mile from where we killed it back down to our camp, the whole elk. And then we shuttled it out from there, just he and I, and we logged 35 miles in less than 36 hours. With our camp and everything. So it's just, we had success because we were in shape to do that, but I guarantee that the average Joe that's not in shape isn't going and having that kind of success doing that thing.
And I think just to bring it back to more personal, you wouldn't have that success if you weren't in that shape.
No.
And that's, and it comes back because like Randy's over here going, I don't go to a gym. I don't work out. But Randy spends 100 and some days a year in the field.
Walking.
That's your gym. That's your workout. So it's not like
Real
you're
world.
sitting here saying, I don't work out and I'm successful. You do work out. It's just a different routine. I think it's for those of us who, when I was an engineer, sat at a desk. I got 2 weeks vacation. I was at that desk the other however many days a year that is. I had to go to a gym to get my workout. Or I had to do something, go for a trail run, go for a mountain bike ride. I had to purposely work out. And I think for a lot of us who sit at a desk or have that job that's demanding, we have to make that a part of it, because we can't just show up September 10th and say, I've been sitting at a desk for the last 11 and a half months. I'm going to go out and tackle the mountain. It doesn't happen.
No. When you put Elk Hunting University together, I know that's was one of your major focuses, because when we did the fitness section of that, we had kind of Brian doing the heavyweight, like lifting piece of it. Jeff and I kind of did a component on more just full body, not still using a gym, but not having to use maybe some of the heavyweights. And then Russ Myers did the piece where he just would throw on a pack and would run up and down the road. And so anyone can do it. It's just like Jeff said earlier, it's figuring out a routine and figuring out what works for you and putting forth some effort to do it.
And I was going to talk about that. Jeff and Mark, I invited them up when I was creating the University of Elk Hunting online course to help with the physical side. So I'm like, I work out, but I'm not nearly as dedicated. I do it. I make myself do it because I know it makes me a better elk hunter. These guys live it. Like, fitness is your platform. I mean, it really is. And elk hunting is your motivation for it. And so to be able to have the way they do it, and like you said, Russ did a piece on putting on a backpack with some weight in it and doing it at your house, finding a hill, running up and down, doing burpees, doing push-ups, all these different things.
Or whatever,
that work a lot of the same muscles. And then Brian Call did one, using I think there are 4 exercises just to really work the core and the most important muscles for elk hunting. So it doesn't matter what you like to do, what your motivation is. If you'll do something, you'll be a better elk hunter.
For me, there were 2 life events that really forced me to have to be serious about my health, not like in extreme fitness type stuff. But in 2002, being a CPA and driving a desk for a living, my lower back was a wreck because I sat way too much. I'd gained that extra 20 pounds that a lot of people do at that age in their life. I was almost 40. And so I go to the orthopedic guy. He's like, you know what? You've let your back get to the point where you're probably going to have back surgery. And I'm like, no. And I remember telling Dr. I'm not going to use his name, but I said, don't go buy your wife a new 4Runner based on my fees paying for it, because I'm bullheaded. So I went to a manual therapist, physical therapist, who specialized in backs. She said, well, the problem is, one, you're fat. You've gained 20 pounds you don't need, and you sit, and your core is weak. And that's what's giving you all this back pain. So it took me 2 years to get my back to where I wanted it to be. And now, this is just, going back to I have to do certain things to get me to a place where I'm committed to this. I think back to that, and I don't let myself watch any TV, whether it's the news, whether it's sports, without doing my exercises, my core exercises, because I can do most of those on the floor. I'm doing a lot of them, certain types of leg lifts, certain types of other things. So people, if you come up to the Randy room, you're going to see all of this stuff in my Randy room that looks like a little bit of a yoga gym. And it's just mentally where I got to be. If I want to watch the Minnesota Vikings get their butt kicked again on Sunday, guess what? I got to be doing my core exercises during that. If I want to watch the news when I get home. So, a bit of my shtick is that I'm completely out of shape. And Corey said, yeah, you're out 100 days a year. And I am. And I'm blessed. I live a mile from a trailhead. But I put on my calendar every day in the summer 2.5 hours of hiking, because that's when I need to really start ramping it up. I don't want to let everything fall apart in tax season when I'm driving that desk for a living. But for me, I just have to do certain things. I had another health event. Some people have seen on our platforms, I have a really messed up liver. I had a huge blood clot in my liver that destroyed all the plumbing. So I get about 20% of the blood flow into my liver that you guys get. The rest of it just recirculates. So if you can imagine having your car where you're only filtering 20% of the oil, so I'm not able to get rid of certain things, certain acids, certain toxins at the rate that you guys can. But I don't let that be my excuse. For me, it's an excuse to not let my health get worse, because the more I hit a valley down in the bottom of my total overall health, the harder it is to get out of that valley with my liver condition. So I try to keep some level playing field. And
with the same, on that same token, you can't go and push hard at the gym because the lactic acid buildup doesn't get processed, and it becomes poison instead of a runner's high. Yeah,
if you want to have a serious headache and body aches and other problems, have a liver that doesn't work and fill your body with lactic acids that you can't get rid of. But to Corey's point of, I go to the Mayo Clinic every year for my liver condition, and when I was there this year, after kind of right in the middle of hunting season, they're like, "Are you some sort of marathon runner or something?" I'm like, "No, I'll run to the marathon if there's an ice cream cone at the end." But, so my resting heart rate was between 38 and 40.
Wow.
And there's a certain procedure they do. They said, "Look, you might have to go drink some caffeine because we can't do this unless your resting heart rate is over 40. But that's just to give the point that I don't let everything just fall apart. I'm never going to be the person who really can get after it, but my pleasure in elk hunting, and this wasn't a life event, but I went on an elk hunt one time and it just sucked. I thought I was, I'm going to go do this. I got my mind all made up, but in my head, I knew I wasn't I'd been at the office for 6 months working 12, 14-hour days, and I just went and did it. It was the most miserable elk hunt I ever went on in my life, and I remember walking off the mountain. I left a couple days early. I'm like, I'm never going to let myself be like this again. So
that's a life event.
Right.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I used that event of misery. It was self-inflicted misery because I didn't do what it took to be in some level of shape. I left right from the CPA firm of working. I never even took time off after tax season. It was the most unhealthy I'd ever been in my life, and I think I was 37 or 38 years old. And I said, no, never again. Yeah. So I've just forced myself to treat my body or at least keeping my health and my fitness to some degree as an appointment on my calendar.
It's so hard to come back once you've fallen off the bandwagon. So that's another motivation. So much easier to maintain.
It takes you 6 weeks to get there and 6 days to lose everything.
It's crazy. It's crazy how that works.
You brought it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you experienced a little bit of this last year when you were hunting with somebody who,
we've talked about that. We hunted with Tommy from Texas. He's 65, I think. Came from sea level. He owned a dental practice, so he didn't have the time in his schedule. Didn't build the time in his schedule to work out for elk hunting. He worked out. He got on a treadmill. He prepared as best he could. But it just wasn't enough, and he, obviously the whole altitude acclimation was a big factor in that. And so we talk a lot of times, people are asking, what can I do? I'm coming from back east. The biggest hill around here is 1,200 feet in elevation. I'm going to Colorado at 10,000 feet. Do I need to be in the gym? Do I need to be running a lot? What do I need to do? And you guys can touch on that because you experienced that. You've hunted 14,000 feet in Colorado, and
I think one of the things that makes a huge difference is this. It's called high intensity interval training, and so you can go out and run 10 miles. You can get actually a better kind of fitness benefit from maybe running as hard as you can for 100 yards and then resting for 100 yards and running. Just getting your heart kind of elevated and then back down into a zone and elevated and back down to a zone, that actually has more benefit scientifically than just going out and running 5 to 10 miles. So there you go, Randy. So you don't even need to,
I didn't know there was a term for that, but when I hike, I'll start out a little slow, make sure everything's stretched out.
Loosen
but
up.
then I will really get after it for about 20 minutes just to...
Yeah, there you go, Randy.
I
Interval.
didn't even know there was a term
So
for
you
that.
say you don't exercise, but you just told us what you do at home, right? And you just gave us another example. You do. You actually
I
do.
didn't
So
know that was-
one of the things, Randy, you said though
Fitness
that
by Randy Newberg.
I think that was so important is just and I didn't even know it.
You use technically down times in your life, watching TV or whatever to, I mean, that's good. Maybe, decompression from life, or a lot of people do that, but you were doing something active during that time. And I think it's not emphasized enough that our core, back, midsection, legs, our whole core is the most important thing that we can stress. Done are the days, at least for elk hunting in my mind, of going out and doing isolation exercise. You don't need to go do bicep curls or these isolation exercises. Honestly, we don't do that anymore. And doing full body stuff and strengthening your core is, I think, the absolute most important things guys can do, because you're carrying heavy stuff on your back, or you're walking a long time every day. So your legs, your butt, your core, all that's key. If I could give any advice, focus on those things and don't worry about getting in the front of a mirror in a gym and just doing isolation stuff, because
I always say biceps don't kill elk.
They don't.
They're cool because you recognize the gains with a bicep. I mean, it's right there. It's an isolated muscle. You lift it, and it's like, wow, look at my bicep. It grew today.
But the thing is, Corey, like, we don't do that.
Yeah,
and
you still get the workout.
And we still get the workout. But if I'm doing deadlifts, or if I'm doing some front or back squats, or some of those kind of full body exercises where I'm working my legs and working everything, I seriously, all that stuff will be built, but you're not just isolating on it. And
Take a dumbbell from the ground, lift it up, and push it over your head. I mean, that's a motion. I mean, you're going to be picking up meat. You're going to be picking up,
leg,
rocks,
back, core,
whatever.
shoulder, everything's in that motion, which simulates hunting.
Yep, exactly.
And that's, for me, because I spend so much time hiking when I'm hunting, there's nothing I've found for what works for me and how I can do it that is better than having about 30 or 40 pounds on my back and going off trail, uphill, downhill, side hill, whatever. And those all for me come back to the core. I can tell if I've been slipping on my core exercises just by when I'm walking and doing that, because it's never even ground. And I know some people don't have the benefit I do, where, look, every place I live is paved. I got to go at the football stadium. That's the only and that's not going to be like side hilling, stepping over a deadfall or under a deadfall. And so I'm blessed in that, but I just try to find what are the things that replicate what I'm going to be doing when I'm out there.
That's the key. And you don't really need all the fancy stuff to focus on core. I mean, there's tons of core exercises you can do that you don't need a gym. You can do in the comforts of your own home,
Air
in front of a
squats,
TV.
planks, just.
Well, and I think in the University of Elk Hunting, when you guys on your fitness segment, I don't think we used anything fancy. I think it was a lot of body weight and maybe a couple dumbbells and a bench or something. So
exactly
anybody,
right.
you can go to Walmart and buy a bench for $45 and a couple dumbbells for $30, and forego the gym membership and get the workout you need to improve. Or you can get yoga equipment and exercise your core and go on a hike. I mean, you can tailor elk hunting fitness to your lifestyle. The key is do something.
Well, Jeff and I have even talked about this in preparation for hunting season. We're obviously doing a lot of stuff to prepare, but there's nothing that trains you quite like getting a 50-pound pack on and getting on the hill, or hardening up your feet a little bit. I mean, you can go in the gym all year long until you side hill and feel, that puts a callus on my my toe or my heel. I mean, those are the things you kind of got to get hardened up and ready for elk hunting as well. So those are,
doesn't do you any good to spend 360 days in the gym and the next 5 days put on a pair of boots and a backpack and go hit the hills.
So one of this parts of this workout that I think is great is, like, every Friday is something that, like, this last Friday's workout was an 8-mile 50-pound rock hike. And you don't even go on the hills. You're just doing it, down the street. It's just an eight wherever you can do 8 miles at. But that was the Friday workout this last week, and gets weight on your back. It gets those muscles that maybe you weren't working in the gym kind of exercise. I was actually breaking in a new pair of, I love Crispy boots. I had a new pair of Crispies that I was just breaking in because I usually wear them all summer and everything and get them ready. And this particular boot didn't fit me great, but I realized that pretty quick on that hike. And they usually all fit me really well, but this particular model I was trying out didn't work for me. And I was halfway through this hike and my heels hurt so bad. I could feel blisters already starting, and I almost called my wife. I said, "Come." I was this close to calling her because I was like, I don't want to ruin my feet, and I pushed through it. You know, I was being
and
dumb,
ruined his feet,
and I ruined my feet for 2 weeks. I could hardly walk because my heels had blisters. But you do that on a hunt, and you're hosed, right? You gotta be able to.
Yeah, if you do that day one on a 10-day, or
exactly,
you're done.
You're done.
Yeah, no matter how much time you spent in the gym, you got on that first day and get blisters on your feet, and hunt's over.
Yeah. If there was one thing I could say to new people or people coming out for an elk hunt who do one elk hunt a year, it's back to what you just said there. I take it for granted because I'm out wolf hunting or I'm out doing something where my feet, they get a little softer this time of year, but then spring bear hunt is the reason for me. Now I've got 3 weeks where I'm just burning up and down the hills with, again, loads, and then that just carries into the rest of the year. But the first couple times when I'm really getting back after it, my feet tell me, Randy, those calluses are gone from last year.
Or just your boots on for a while.
Or just the muscles in the calf and the lower ankle, whatever it takes for that stability on uneven ground is like, we haven't used those for a while. And I think if you're someone who doesn't have that easy, quick access to those places like I do, and you come out here and you jump out of the truck or get off the airplane, your feet are just not mountain ready.
Tough. Ready. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
The elevation thing, I don't know what to do on that one. I mean, that's hard. It almost like you have to come out a few days ahead of time to get acclimated, because we went and hunted Colorado and we were in really good shape. This was actually back in 2010 when we first met you. We'd drawn a tag in southern Colorado and we camped at 10,006, and then we went up and I killed my bull at 12.5. Wow. And you think you're in good shape. You start hiking up there, the oxygen is so noticeably different that you fatigue so much quicker because your blood's not oxygenated.
But I think, and that comes back even to the high intensity interval training. Yeah. Your body knows how to use oxygen efficiently. So when it is limited like that, you don't suffer the effects of high elevation as much. And so I think doing that, but if you're going from sea level to 12,000 feet, it's going to take a couple days regardless.
Yeah. I think going anaerobic, like I said, with that HIIT training, going anaerobic, because that's kind of what happens in a high altitude situation. You go, you do the same amount of exercise, but and I heard the science behind this one time. It's not that there's less oxygen up there. It's how your body assimilates that oxygen. So your cells actually just don't absorb when you breathe in. There's less atmospheric pressure at that level. So it's how the oxygen comes out in and assimilates into your cells is more of a factor than everyone says, well, there's no air up here. Well, the air is the same. It's just how your body's processing that.
It's not being forced into your body the same way.
That's right. It comes in a little differently. So, but going anaerobic, coming back out of that zone, that's going to help you in those situations.
When you guys are doing these Spartan races or other real competitive things, or even just when you guys are really intense in your workouts, you guys it's so intuitive to you about hydration and, okay, when do I need to be feeding my body during the day while I'm doing this? But a lot of people I see who come out here, they have no idea how arid it is and how quickly just the respiration is is at a faster pace. You're going to dehydrate quicker.
Yep.
So hydration and just some of the basic essentials seem to be a struggle for folks who might be in really good shape, but they just aren't either thinking about that or their life experiences haven't made it as intuitive as it is for you guys. Are there a few things that you'd say, look, even if you're in really good shape, a lot of that can be compromised if you don't A, B, or C?
Yeah, if you don't fill the Ferrari up with fuel, it's not going to run just like that. Yeah, so...
you don't even need to have a Ferrari.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I was trying to say somebody who's in really good shape or a really nice car. But we... when we so nutrition is a huge part of this, right? Mm-hmm. We've talked about this a little bit, but nutrition and how you feed your body and hydrate your body. I mean, I have a goal every day to drink, a certain amount of water that I know I need. If you're going to the bathroom every 30 minutes, you're doing it right. If it's clear and but if you don't do that, especially out hunting, we make it a big point to really hydrate, because it is. And you've talked about some areas that just don't have a lot of water to even get out there, which we've been in some areas where we haven't been able to find the water, so we've used up all the reserves for the day, and your body just starts to shut down. We had a buddy with us one year, and we had gone all day, and we'd all run out of water, and we couldn't find any to pump. We always take, and he lost his will to move. Like, he just didn't want to go anywhere, and the next massive headache, and the next morning didn't want to go. And I mean, it's really a real thing. You got to be really careful.
One thing we do, and I think Barclow was on a podcast with you not too long ago, but in terms of kind of backcountry food, we're very deliberate in how we measure out our caloric intake when we're in the backcountry. So we'll actually, deconstruct mountain houses or whatever, and basically create a kit. It's like our daily food kit, and we know exactly how many calories are in that kit. So whether it's granola bars or nuts or jerky or a dehydrated meal or whatever, we're consolidating it. Our typical day is we'll get up with oatmeal packs or some sort of oatmeal granola mix. We'll take that down with a fruit cup or something, and then lunch we'll make pre-make big old peanut butter sandwiches, and then our evening meal is kind of this dehydrated meal. But it's in a sack, and it says day one. And that's our day one, and we know that represents 3,500 calories. And if we're burning 2,000 just being idle, right, we need to go above and beyond that. So we're very deliberate about that. And then when it comes to hydration, I would just recommend someone always have a hydration pack on and be sipping on it all day long. Even if you don't feel thirsty, you need to be always hydrating the whole day, because that altitude really will suck it out. If you're in colder temperatures, that sucks it out of you. You don't feel thirsty, but I mean, it's obviously when you're hiking up a hill and it's 80 degrees out there, you feel thirsty in your drink. But the way your body loses through perspiration or whatever, you have to be drinking constantly in the backcountry, or you'll have one of these failures like Jeff was talking about with our friend. It's so important to do that. But our general rule is anytime we come across water, we're topping off just in case we don't, have a place. We usually try and camp by a stream or something, so we have readily access. Obviously, with the horse dynamic, we have to find water for them and drink them
not just puddles.
a couple times a day. So it is really important, Randy. I mean, that's something that is another kind of component of backcountry hunting, but is absolutely critical to success or your survival's at risk.
I know, so. Corey, this last year you made a big point. I saw you carrying 2 extra bottles, right?
So I'm probably the worst person. I actually used
camel.
I did. I used to train myself for shed hunting to not carry water for an entire day and not drink. I would drink a bunch of water in the morning and go all day and make myself thirsty and push through that. And I think there's some long-term effects that I suffer from that, because when I drink now like I'm supposed to, it goes right through me, and I don't feel like the water is absorbed by my body. Yeah. And I feel like I'm always dehydrated. And there's major health effects that come from being dehydrated. So I've made it a point to drink way more water deliberately, but I still fall short. I'm probably at 50% where I need to be, whether hunting or just sitting at the desk.
I don't have the exact figures on me about how much you should drink a day, but
double your body weight in ounces, I think.
Yeah.
Is that,
so
or half your body weight in ounces?
It's half your body weight in ounces. So we're supposed to be like 70, 80 ounces a day, which seems like a ton of water.
Yeah.
But
because this is 16 ounces a bottle, so that would be 5 of these bottles a day you should be drinking.
Yeah.
And that's
just
not exercising.
That's without losing it.
Yeah. So the friend that you said kind of just had to fold it up for a day, I assume this person was in really good fitness?
He is. We're pretty selective about who we invite.
I was going to say, you don't want to drag a boat anchor like me with you, so that's a polite way of saying that, Jeff. I get it.
So he's kind of the third cog in our wheel, and he always does really good and takes this seriously like we do, but just missed that day, and it had a massive effect on him.
Jeff had to convince him to get out of bed the next morning just because he was feeling so crappy. And
he's like, I'm taking a day off. We can't. We got to go. We killed his bull that morning.
Yeah.
And I wrote about this once, but he would have missed that. He would have missed that opportunity. But yeah, it just had a massive effect on him.
And the reason I say that is a lot of people can be in really good shape, but it's when you leave the trailhead, there's also this other component that can really compromise all of that fitness
work
you've done if you aren't thinking about those things.
And I would say even not just at the trailhead. I mean, my whole philosophy used to be I work out hard so I can have more ice cream. And it's, I mean, seriously, I would say, I worked out really hard today. I deserve a large blizzard instead of a small. And that thinking is completely wrong, because if you work out hard, you need to be putting good fuel in to get out of that workout what you want. Because you're not going to be in as good a shape if you put junk in as you are if you do the exact same thing and just eat right and fuel yourself. So both, hydration and nutrition while you're working out.
Yeah, for sure.
Is huge.
Well, I have way more fun elk hunting now since that one time I told you that you're describing your friend who was about ready to just give it up. That was the mental state I was in. I just packed up and left.
Yeah.
I was defeated before I really even got into the hunt. I'm like, you know what? I appreciate my days hunting way too much to let my fat butt cause this complication again. And so even though I'm not a picture of fitness, it's what serves as my motivation. I mean, right now it's shovel snow season in Bozeman, and my wife's like, well, why don't you get out the snowblower? You know what? I need about 45 minutes of exercise this morning, so I'm out shoveling the driveway. It's just, for me, because my time is so constrained, I just got to think of excuses.
They all add up.
What's something that's going to help?
Yeah, they all add up. It's great.
Because lifting tax returns, there's not enough value in hitting keyboard strokes and lifting tax returns.
So now
to
I've
get
got
me
a
there.
visual of Randy every time I call him. He puts the headset on, he lays down on his yoga mat, and he starts doing leg lifts.
That's me.
We should have been doing them right here.
That's right. Yeah.
Randy's an accountant. Somebody calls, you're on the clock, and I'm on the yoga mat.
Yeah. Well, then I can accomplish that, and I can send you an invoice for the amount of time that I just gave you
paid
advice
to work
for.
out. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It's been really helpful for me. I hope the audience realizes that it's more of a lifestyle choice and a commitment to your health. And I can say this because I'm 54 years old. I'm at least 10 years older than all you guys. I used to laugh when I was in my late 30s and the late 40 and 50-year-old guys would say, wait till you get to be 50. I'm like, you pansy.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I'm here I am eating crow for having questioned those guys. And what I've found is the older you get, you just got to make it more of a priority.
Yeah, body starts to change, your metabolism starts to change, all of that stuff starts to...
Well, if you wait until you're 55 to start it, it's too late. I mean, you won't create the habit that's necessary.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you guys are going to look like in 10 years. You're going to look like Tony Mudd.
Yeah.
Tony's
Stud.
55, 56, and he is an absolute physical animal.
Yep. Yeah.
And as far as hunting goes, probably one of the most successful hunters I know.
He is.
And part of his success, I know, is attributed to his regimen to be physically fit.
Well, and he enjoys it so much because of that.
It's his lifestyle.
Yeah.
And creating, and you don't have to be Mr. Olympia or anything, but if you'll do something and create a habit now, it'll serve you in every aspect of life for the rest of your life.
Yeah, there's a component of this that we don't have time to get into today, but just this mental toughness. So the mental toughness in the off season and mental toughness when you're in the hunt, but this mentality of kind of getting off your rear and getting in shape. There's a component of mental there. Getting up at 5 o'clock every morning or whenever you do it, there's a component of mental. Like I'm not gonna be defeated by my
natural, your body's what your body wants to do.
Sometimes you got to listen to your body, but other times you got to kind of push through, So this mental component's huge.
I think that's huge. I wish we would have had more time to focus on that, because I say that my only success or my best trait in life is I don't quit.
Yeah.
Is I'm very disciplined about when that alarm goes off, I'm not hitting snooze, and I want to get something done during the day, and I'm not the kind of guy who's just going to sit around and like, oh, the sun came up, I think all this, and maybe I'll get to that.
I could do this tomorrow.
Yeah, that is all mental. I think the mental aspect of it is huge.
And the more you push yourself physically, the more you train your mind to say, I can get out of my comfort range and be successful.
Yep.
And so there's such a critical component there that is mental that you gain from pushing yourself physically.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, when are we going to talk about this next time?
Let's do it soon. It'd be great.
All right, because I'm sure this is going to generate a ton of questions, and I'm not even remotely qualified to answer any of them. Corey handles all the questions. He filters them and forward, or does Tyler?
Tyler filters them.
Okay,
yeah.
And I'm sure any of them that relate to fitness don't end up going to my inbox.
And I'm not the best person to talk about fit. I mean, that's why we have you guys on here talking about it, because in my opinion, you guys are the epitome of do-it-yourself everything. Like, you're regular guys. Most people listening might not have even ever heard of you, but you're probably some of the most successful elk hunters that I know, and that they're in every town across the West.
Yeah.
I mean, just people that nobody knows that would crush anybody going to the top of the mountain and packing an elk off of it. And that's what I want to hear from real world, not the guy that lives in the gym on supplements and does that. I mean, that's important to some people, but when it comes to elk hunting and fitness,
The practicality side of it.
yeah, exactly.
Thanks, guys.
And
Appreciate that.
balancing life, because I mean, you have how many children, Jeff?
We both have 5.
You both have 5.
Wow.
So
They range from 21 to 8. His is about
It's
the
18
same.
to 6. So
Wow.
Got the whole gamut
You guys
covered.
are busy.
I was gonna
Lots
say,
of stuff going
so
on.
no excuses. Very busy at work, busy at home, making time to be successful in the gym and elk hunting.
Yeah, and I think that goes to that mental part of anything you do in life is setting that goal and saying, how do I do the little steps, the little pieces that get me there? Instead of saying, I want to do that, and tomorrow, I expect I should be able to do it tomorrow.
Do a little bit each day. Start today, do a little bit each day, and we've got
Don't try to eat the elephant all at once.
Right.
Just build up to it.
Yeah, I think then people, when they do that, they get frustrated and then they quit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
you also
they-
get
then they go-
injury too if you go too hard. You gotta work into this. Start little bit at a time, and
It's like elk hunting.
Yeah.
Realistic expectations. The guy that comes out and says, I want to pick up a bow on August 31st and go shoot a 350-inch bull for the first time on September 1st, they're going to give up and quit because it's not realistic. So
Mark and I will even begin a 7-day hunt, and we'll say, let's not
Go out too hot.
let's not go out too hot, because even
You're so excited to get out there, and it's the first opening morning, and we don't need to go
Pace
20
yourself.
miles a day, Jeff. Let's just let's just do
yourself.
10. So we don't you don't want to.
let's actually get on a glassing spot and use our eyes a little bit. See if we can
I wanna
find
see what's
elk
over that next ridge.
versus hiking over 3 ridges to see if we can find them.
Well, the next time I want to have you guys on with Bo Beatty, the llama guy, and we can talk horses and llamas in the same podcast.
That'd be cool.
That'd be really cool. The pluses and minuses, and where they fit better or don't fit better.
We
or-
definitely sometimes even debate within ourselves, do we take the horses because there's such a benefit, but there's also so much more work, and we worry about them, and we've had some wrecks and disasters that make it always leaves that
not taking him next
Not
time.
taking
It's
them next
stressful
time.
enough to go elk hunting, but you add kind of another animal that you're caring for out there. It adds a new element.
their feed, is there going to be feed and water, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Makes you worried. We like to stay out all day, but with horses, you have to come back. I mean, there's a lot of elements we need to talk about in a future
They'll
podcast.
be selling their horses and getting llamas if you ask Randy.
Well, I didn't grow up in a horse family, so I know nothing about them, and the horses know that. They sense I know,
They know
nothing about them. And they're like, we're going to show this guy. They're running me up against trees and under limbs, and the guy, my buddy who owns a horse, is like, just tell him who's boss. I'm trying here, but I got a stick in my eye. So he'll look back at me, and he's riding, and I'm now a half mile behind leading his horse up the hill. He's like, I didn't bring him along because he needed a walk. Get on him and ride him.
Well,
It's
just like you exercise and train for that, we take that seriously all year. So when we get into the hunting situations, we have complete confidence, or a lot more confidence in how they're going to
react
to certain things and their dispositions and that sort of thing, and they get to trust you. So there is that connection that happens.
Yeah. Well, another topic
Another
for
topic.
another day, I guess.
Thanks for having us.
Well, appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks
Really
for listening,
appreciate it.
folks, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, let's see if they can turn the speaker noise down here in this joint. Don't they know who you are, Corey?
They do. That's why they keep blaring the speaker right above me.
All right, folks. Until the next time, thanks so much.